Okay, so the record button is slid across and it's red. So hopefully this is recording and you're not like 20 minutes in and the first thing is me saying this is recording. So hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of Order 66 podcast. This is You Rebel Show is what we're calling this one. And myself is Chris Fint and alongside me is Simon. Hello Simon.
Hi Chris, hi guys, how is everyone?
Well, I could just say I'm fine. Nobody else, unless you're watching, then write down below how you are. And that was me putting my arm around you, even though I would need to do it that way. I still can't figure out the camera because if I go this way, it goes that way, and it's just really odd to get used to. So it is. So, good morning from New Zealand, from Chris Hanlon. Hello, Chris. Thank you for writing that. And yes, it's good evening over here in the UK. Excuse me if I cough or sneeze. I was at a convention yesterday, so I think I've got the lovely
Conflu,
on crud or conflu or whatever it's called. So yeah, straight off the bat, Simon, Star Wars Rebels. How did you first come into watching it? Has it been recently, or did you watch it whenever it first aired? Because obviously the UK date's different from that in America, of course.
I was pretty slow getting into it, I'm not going to lie. But I don't know, it was one of those things that I kept meaning to get around to watching and just didn't find the time or anything to get into it. But then I bought the Blu-ray and just blitzed the entire first season and just fell in love with it. And yeah, I'm watching season 2 episodes like literally as they come on, and I'm just blown away by it. It is Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars to me. It's got that vibe. The characters you can connect with. I just love it. It's perfect.
Yeah, I would have to say that. Obviously, with the likes of, with the characters, we have like one who isn't really a Jedi and one who wants to kind of become a Jedi and is kind of Jedi in training. Like, obviously, there will be spoilers ahead. I have to preface that, so I don't want somebody going like, "Hey, spoil it for me." This is your warning. If you don't want to know about anything to do with season 1 or season 2, then don't watch. Is the best way I can say this. So obviously, whenever we see, Ezra making his lightsaber, and he's got like the gun part of it as well.
Such a cool lightsaber.
Yes, it is. It is quite a smart. But the lightsaber, I don't know what it is, but the lightsaber hilts, the actual lightsaber itself, they don't look as big as they do in, say, like the Clone Wars or whatever. I don't know if that's just me.
No, I agree. I agree.
So obviously the guy Dave Filoni, I think his name is, who is responsible for Clone Wars, has brought Rebels to us. Now I have to ask, and obviously the comparison is going to be, obviously we've had 5 full seasons, and then the 6th season, whenever Disney bought over Lucasfilm and kind of ended Clone Wars, but said, listen, we can make these specials, Netflix, and obviously they brought out in DVD and Blu-ray as well. Was the Clone Wars, obviously with us having 5-6 seasons to go through, was that more of a chore for you, or was it a kind of a case of, I'll say what my piece in a minute, or was it a case of Rebels only being 13 episodes? Did you find that easier to digest than, say, 26 episodes of the first season of Clone Wars?
Yeah, I think the shorter amount of episodes definitely helped with sort of, just getting you involved with the characters and investing in them rather than having to invest too much time into a super long first season. But in terms of the Clone Wars, I enjoyed it, but I think quite often I'd dip in and out of it, and you'd have a period where it was brilliant and then it would dip and then it would get good again. And I expect that's probably going to happen with Rebels at some point as well, because obviously season 2 is going to be this, the same length of what the Clone Wars series were. But to me, I think they've took what they did with the Clone Wars, figured out where they went wrong, what didn't work, tried to improve on it. And I think a lot of the time the Clone Wars kind of felt like it was trying to be Star Wars rather than actually being Star Wars. That might sound weird to some people, but and I always felt like a lot of the time they were trying to, in a way, make up for people's disappointment for the prequels and try and tell more story that they couldn't tell in the prequels. Whereas
Yeah.
Rebels, they've been able to cover a period of time that we've not seen before. So that's given them a lot of extra freedom, I think. They've not been so restricted with what they've got to do, and they're not trying to make up for what's sort of come before it, I suppose. But yeah, Rebels definitely feels as if it is Star Wars rather than it trying to be Star Wars, I think. So I think that's my main comparison.
Yeah, one thing I've enjoyed the Clone Wars from what I've seen. I haven't watched all of them. I think I'm up to about season 3 or 4, but I don't like the way it goes from one story arc, and then so you have a story to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin, and then you'll go to a different story to do with a rogue Jedi and the clone troopers, and he's trying to turn all the clones against each other and all this here. And there was a couple of episodes that have, if you take out, say half of the episodes in the season and just made that, like if you made it shorter, like you're kind of saying, I think that would have been a lot better, in my opinion. There would seem to be a lot of, like with the likes of, say, Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Arrow or whatever, sometimes you'll have a very filler episode, like a villain of the month kind of thing, like Doctor Who, for example. And it's a case of it doesn't really progress the storyline any to where you're going. Where now we know where we're going, like series 2 kind of set it up perfectly. The end of season 1, set up perfectly for the start of season 2. And how did you feel at the end of season 1 whenever we had that big reveal?
Oh, it was brilliant. Absolutely perfect. Ahsoka was my favourite character from the Clone Wars by a mile. I like what they did with Anakin, being a big fan of the character of Anakin Skywalker. I think in the Clone Wars, they were able to show a lot more of that character, go into greater depth with him, his relationship with Obi-Wan, that kind of thing. But for me, Ahsoka was the complete standout of that show. It was a character that was new to us, that you could connect to. And now seeing her all these years later, she's obviously grown as a person. She's obviously matured a lot. She's got all this time that's happened that we don't know. We don't know where she was. We don't know what she was doing. I'm hoping we find that out as it goes on. But yeah, it was just, I was so excited when I saw her, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where she goes in season 2. What about you?
Oh yes, I totally. Whenever I saw that there, and then saw her at the end of it, I was like, okay, great. And now with season 2, and then seeing Vader on the ship, and then seeing the fear in her eyes, and then him saying, the apprentice of Skywalker, because obviously she doesn't know what's happened to Anakin. She doesn't know that Darth Vader is, is Anakin Skywalker. And obviously with the latest episode that we've seen, the 2 Inquisitors, wanting her, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But just seeing the fear in her face, because she's not as snippy as she was in the Clone Wars. Obviously now she's, as you say, she's growing, and she's seemed to become a lot more. She doesn't seem to express her feelings as much as she did in the Clone Wars. She seems very stern-faced and very, even whenever Rex met her, like you didn't really see a great deal of emotion in her face, and that was weird as well. But I think it's just this case of she trying to hide her feelings, so that they're not manipulated with the Force and all that.
I think so. There's definitely a reason why she's put some sort of guard up, which is why I'm saying I really hope we get some sort of, flashback episodes or something, and find out what has happened to her, because she is still essentially Ahsoka, but there is something that feels very different about her at the minute, and I really want to get to the bottom of what that is. But I know that Ashley, who obviously voices Ahsoka in the show, she's been saying on some interviews that she herself doesn't know at the minute if Ahsoka knows that Vader is Anakin, and she's playing it as if she doesn't know who he is. And I'm just wondering what sort of reaction she's going to have when she finds. I mean, who does she think that Vader is at the minute? Does she think that Vader killed Anakin? I mean, I just don't know, but that encounter is going to be absolutely crazy when it does happen.
Yeah, I mean, if we have Obi-Wan saying to Luke that, your father wanted you to have this lightsaber whenever you were old enough, but your father was actually on fire and I took it from him. So what is Vader going to say? Is Vader going to say that, I know you're the apprentice of Skywalker, and obviously whether she feels, like she searches her feelings and she knows that it's true, the way that we kind of have, instead of I'm your father, I am your master, and then her just go no, and what have you. But obviously, we've seen the return of Ahsoka. We've also seen the return of Rex with a couple of other troopers. Were you a fan of kind of seeing some of the troopers come back? Obviously, for me, it would have had to be Cody instead of Rex, but obviously he turned and shot at Obi-Wan, and so it makes sense why they chose Rex for this. Were you a fan of that? Like that two-parter episode from season 2?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, the Siege of Lothal was so amazing that I kind of expected there to be a little bit of a dip in the quality of the next 2 episodes, but it wasn't. It was still really, really good. Plenty of action. I think if there's one criticism I'd have, there was maybe a little bit too much of the sort of comedy element thrown in with the troopers, but then I guess you got to remember that it is a Disney show. I suppose it is aimed at kids, so that's probably why that's in there. But that's just a really minute criticism. But yeah, it was really great to see them in it. I just hope that it doesn't turn into a case of every few weeks more and more Clone Wars characters coming into it. I don't want that. I want Rebels to stand firmly on its own 2 feet, because it's good enough to do that, and its central characters and the actors that are doing the voice performances are far so capable of doing it themselves rather than bringing in stuff that we've already seen in the past. So it's good, but I hope they kind of curb how much of that they're doing.
That's what actually my next question was going to be, was that obviously now we've seen 2 characters from the Clone Wars appear in Rebels. If we were going for the hat trick, what other character would you want to be brought over?
My answer is always going to be an obvious one. It's going to be Darth Maul.
Right, okay.
Because I still want some sort. Obviously, he'd be a lot older by this point, but I really want to see a final conclusion to his story. I've always been a massive fan of that character. I loved it when they brought him back in Clone Wars. Loved it when they carried it on with the Son of Dathomir comic, but I still feel cheated that we've not got a proper ending for that character. So I really want to know what happens to him once and for all. So he'd be my choice. What about you?
I don't know, because you can't really go and say, somebody says Boba, which makes sense. Obviously, you can't really say, I want to have this Jedi or that Jedi or this Jedi, because that wouldn't happen. So I would probably say, even if you were to have something like a really, really young Han Solo or something like that, just before, because obviously we don't know how old Vader is, etc. So yeah, I think Boba Fett would be a good idea for that. So whether that would be a case of, obviously with Sabine wearing like the kind of Mandalorian helmet and stuff like that, whether we see more of that. Obviously we'd seen that happen in Clone Wars as well, whenever Ahsoka was pretending to be somebody's betrothed or wife. And then there was like I can't remember the name of their band. Well, not that they were a musical band, but you know what I mean. But I don't know what point I'm trying to make right now. But anyway, yes. So with Rebels as well, how do you feel about the music of it? Because obviously the end of the last episode, whenever Kanan was saying that, we need to tell Ahsoka that of what happened, and you kind of hear the kind of the slow Imperial March kind of theme kicking in. The music in the Clone Wars kind of grabbed me at times, but not an awful lot of it, whereas this seems more as you say, this seems more Star Wars. Whether this is the case of this is what Disney has kind of instructed them to do, and kind of, you know, you're meant to use the music. Here's kind of what we expect from it, you know. So here's like sample tracks for you to go ahead and use. I don't know, but the music obviously plays an integral part of the movies. And for you, would it be the same case with Rebels as well?
Absolutely. I mean, like I say, so much of Rebels feels familiar. And a big part of that is the music. I mean, every Star Wars film, all of them have always had, like you say, such special music and amazing soundtracks that really draw you into the movies, add something to the movies, and the scenes that you're watching would not be the same without the music that you're hearing. I mean, people can have whatever opinions they want about the prequels as well, but one thing that they can't deny is how good a lot of that music was in it. You know, the love theme from Attack of the Clones and Duel of Fates from Phantom Menace, like really fantastic music. And I think with Rebels, I think they've definitely got that again, where if you was to have those scenes without the music, they'd still be good, but that music just adds that other layer to it to just bring that extra emotion to the table. So yeah, I think they're doing an absolutely phenomenal job with that. Yeah.
Good idea. We had a tweet from our friend James asking how many Republic credits it is to get in the podcast, and I said it was free, and he said we can have his 2 droids. So I don't know if Anna is maybe one of the droids. I don't know. So thanks for tweeting James there. One of the things I have yet to get into, I've read issue 1. We'll talk about the last couple of episodes in a sec. Obviously we've had like a wealth of Star Wars comics, whether it be Star Wars, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, Lando, Chewbacca. We've got a C-3PO one coming up, but a big one, and one that you echoed to me quite a few days ago, was how good you thought Kanan the Last Padawan was. So just, if you want to try not to spoil a lot for me, because I was at a convention yesterday and got issues 3 to 7 and had to get issue 2. Issue 2 was really, I had to pay £5 including postage for it. I couldn't find like a normal first print cover. I had to buy like a 1 in 15 cover of like just Kanan, but like from the Rebel show. So would this rank above, would this rank in one of your top, not just top Star Wars comics, but top comics that you've read?
Yeah, I think out of all the stuff that's out there in terms of comics at the minute, just in general, it's definitely up there as one of my favourites. And as far as Star Wars is concerned, it's probably my second favourite after the main series. I'm really not far behind it at all. Yeah, I'm not going to give anything away because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, including you. But what it does do, I think, is it's kind of like what we were saying about Aftermath and stuff in the episode last week. If you go into that media and if you read that Kanan comic, you're going to get so much more feel of the character and so much more knowledge, but not in a way that you don't have to read it. But it's just it just brings so much more to that character if you do read it. So if you're a fan of Rebels and if you're a fan of Kanan, you kind of watch the show and he'll say something and it'll relate back to something that you've witnessed in the comics. So you kind of picture it in your mind as if you've seen that as well. So they're doing a great job of making it that it's not an essential read, but it's definitely going to add a lot more to your Rebels viewing experience if you do check it out. And I think the art's really, really good as well, and I really like the writing behind it. But yeah, Kanan's just a fantastic character. I love the way, I mean, the plan was to have him as kind of like that Han Solo sort of character within Rebels, and I think it's working really, really well. I love the fact that he's not actually at that level of Jedi Knight, but yet he's still trying to, take Ezra under his wing and train him up and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic how that's being portrayed, and Freddie Prinze Jr. is doing a fantastic job voicing that character, and, he's got so much of a love for Star Wars. And I was watching an interview with him the other day, and he was saying that the Kanan comics are actually bedtime story reading for his daughter. He reads the comics to his daughter of a night time. I thought that was just so great. You know, he's just got so much of a passion, and he's really made Kanan a part of his life. But yeah, the comic is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, there was a celebration last year that was obviously on the Rebels panel. Couldn't think of the words there. And they were sitting there, and somebody asked him, "What do you think of the trailer of season 2?" And he said, "Like, you haven't shown this." And I think it was James Arnold Taylor said, "Right." And they got them all to sit down. You just see them all sitting on the floor, like looking up at the screen like that. There, all like little children, and you just see the look on his face. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different characters in there. You know, like obviously we've got the Jedis, we've got like we've got Sabine as the girl. What's the other girl's name? I can never remember
Hera.
her name. Yeah, Hera. And then we've got like the Chewbacca, so to speak, and then we've got the droid. I would have to say the Chopper is probably one of my favorite characters. So it is. I just think he's funny. There was a video I was watching. I don't know if it was on StarWars.com, and there was like a Rebels Q&A, and a girl asks, "Who does a voice for Chopper?" And like, because apparently this seems to be a closely guarded secret, and Dave Filoni went up and whispered in their ear, and Freddie Prinze Jr. I think said, "Who did you say?" He said, "I told her the truth, but I told her she's not allowed to tell anyone." So this is obviously a good way for fans, especially kids who maybe have not seen the Star Wars movies or the Clone Wars. The majority of kids nowadays have access to the internet, for the likes of Disney XD or on their TiVo or Skybox or whatever, and it's easy to access. Do you think this will obviously help with people, in transitioning? Because this is set between Jedi. Is it set after Jedi, isn't it? I can never remember.
No, Rebels is set in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Yeah, I always get them mixed up. So so obviously between those two. Obviously the Clone Wars is set between 2 and 3 because Anakin isn't Darth Vader. So do you think with this being, obviously the colors in this are just, the art in this is just glorious. Do you think that this kind of helps with the big, vibrant colors? Is obviously a help to kids to try and draw them in with the new film coming out in a matter of weeks now?
Absolutely. I think Rebels is going to help tremendously draw the next generation of fans into Star Wars, because, kids are going to be kids. They're always going to love cartoons. They're always going to love animation. And you've got the fact that you've got the colors, the brilliant graphics, the great voices, the brilliant stories that draw you in. That this is going to connect to kids in a big way, and they've made sure that there's enough, like I say, of action scenes and things like that to keep the boys interested. And then you've got these cool female characters as well that young girls are going to look up to and aspire to be like, which I've got to say is something that Star Wars are doing like all the time now. All of their media that they're putting out one way or another has got strong female presence in. But yeah, I just think that it's absolutely, it can't do any harm to exposing a new generation to Star Wars. And I think you've got the new film bringing in new fans as well as all the old ones, and Rebels seems to be appealing across the board as well, which is absolutely great.
Well, speaking of old films, and speaking of women with a strong female presence, somebody who obviously likes the feel of a strong female presence is a certain Lando Calrissian, who we've seen in Series 1. Obviously, this is voiced by Billy Dee Williams. I've got to admit that in Season 1, the episode that had him in it was by far my favorite episode. I just thought the voice acting of him was spot on. The likeness of the character was just spot on. And I thought, just seeing, obviously we've had Anthony Daniels as 3PO, although you don't really see 3PO that much in this. You do see 3PO, and see, I'm getting confused with this in Clone Wars again. but the likes of Lando, and then just seeing him in this, what were your thoughts on seeing Lando Calrissian in Rebels?
Absolutely brilliant. Again, it's just that familiarity. It's the same with bringing James Earl Jones in to voice Vader. It's just adding to that Star Wars feel of watching it and it being Star Wars. And I think it's also a great way to open up these characters to a younger audience. You know, they're going to see them in the series and then maybe go back and watch the films and, you know, connect with what they've already seen in the show, know who these characters are. So yeah, it's just brilliant. I think it's the familiarity that's key here. I think that's how they've been able to connect so much with the Star Wars fan group, because it's just, you watch it and, like I've said so many times already in this, it is Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars. So yeah, to me, they're really not putting a foot wrong at the minute. They're putting just enough of that kind of thing in. It's the same with what I was saying about the Clone Wars characters. I don't want them to take it too far. I don't want it to be a case of every episode you've got somebody from the films in. I don't want that, but putting it in, you know, slipping them in here and there is absolutely perfect. I love it. It's a nice tip of the hat to the fans and to the films, and it just keeps that continuity going, which is brilliant.
Yeah, you don't want that being Star Wars, instead of Star Wars Rebels, it's Star Wars The Clone Wars Reunited or whatever. You know, like, as you say, you don't mind the odd character here and there, but if they've done one in like the last couple of weeks now, and it's a case of we don't need any more. So obviously with the last episode, we've had, obviously we have Freddie Prinze Jr. doing the voice for Kanan, and now his wife is doing the voice. So I know you're a big fan of this character, so go on ahead, and while you're talking, I'm going to send out a tweet.
Oh man, she's amazing. The look of her, the voice that she's doing, that kind of special effect they've given to her voice as well. She's just awesome. And there's something about her. You watch her and there's something about this character. I don't know what it is, but I can just see that she's gonna develop so much. I love the way that she was almost playing with Ezra. You know, it was like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to have a bit of fun with you. And yeah, just absolutely such an amazing character. Now, the other one, the fifth brother, I don't like him. He just really, really irritated me.
Is that the other Inquisitor? The other
Inquisitor.
Kind of,
there's nothing. There's nothing to him. You know, he's not scary. I don't fear him. I don't think the rebels would fear him. He's just got that sort of brute force look about him. I don't know. He just seems a bit dumb to me.
It's just, for me, it's the blank face and just a blank.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing, like you say, there's no personality or anything there. You know, whenever we had Kanan and the other Inquisitor, the female one, and he said, like, if you wanted to kill me, you would have done it by now. And, you know, there's dialogue going across, whereas the other one is kind of just there for all, you know, intents and purposes. It could just be like a droid, because, you know, it's not doing anything and it's not really progressing the storyline. You know, I didn't actually know that. I had a feeling whenever you said, like, oh, I'm a big fan of Sarah Michelle, oh my God, SMG, Sarah Michelle Gellar's, my lord, character. And I was like, which one is it? And then whenever she took the mask off, I was like, oh, right, that's her. Because I then listened to the voice going, is that her? And then whenever she took the mask off, I was like, oh, right, it is her. Yeah, so, how do you see, obviously, one of the main things she said to Ezra was that, you know, like, she wants Ahsoka. Do you think that that's a case of, you know, like, Ahsoka's going to volunteer to give herself up to her? You know, because I can't see the rebels saying, like, here you go, here's what you want, take her.
Well, first off, that scene was just awesome, a fantastic scene, and I love the way that it wasn't a case of, we don't, you know, she wasn't like, I want the rebels. It was, I want Ahsoka. Where is Ahsoka? So, you know, the Inquisitors and everyone, they're obviously all out for Ahsoka, which is fantastic. They're absolutely fully aware of her.
Look down below, Robbie Rebel
Mr.
joined.
Robbie Rebel.
If you have not watched, hello Robbie. If you have not watched Star Wars Rebels, we're talking about it, and it may ruin it for you. Go on, Simon. Sorry.
Yeah. So they're what I like about them is I think ever since Jason Isaacs Inquisitor went out of it in season 1, I think these ones there's very much a feel of that they are sort of fighting for that position that he had. I think it's very much a case of who's going to get to the top of the Inquisitor ladder the quickest kind of thing, which is making me wonder if we're going to see even more Inquisitors over the course of this series. But she's got to be a heck of a strong contender. I mean, she was even trying as hard as she could to hold that ship to stop it from taking off using the Force, and she was saying to that other idiot, she was saying, I can't do it alone. I need some help. But he was so dumb that he couldn't even handle that. So, but yeah, she's in terms of where Ahsoka's going with this. I don't think she needs to give herself up. I think Ahsoka is just going to go after them. I've just got this feeling that Ahsoka is just going to, as soon as she is aware of the fact that these are coming specifically after her, she's not going to need any persuading. She's going to go to them. I mean, don't forget, she's been a Jedi for a heck of a long time now. She knows what she's doing. I think she's more than capable of taking these guys on by herself, to be honest. And I think when she does, she's going to definitely go to town on them, so to speak.
Well, Robbie says, somebody say Rebel. Yes, it's Star Wars Rebels. Has Rebel in it. It's nothing to do with you. It's not all about you, Robbie. Yeah, because at the end of the episode, whenever they're talking to Kanan and they say, did you know that there was more Inquisitors? And he said, no, I thought the last one was it. So how many more are we actually going to have between now and the end of the season? I'm trying to think what else to talk about. How do you see like Rex and stuff kind of being a bit more involved? Because obviously we just saw him kind of playing chess, and this is kind of one of those, obviously like I'm going to show my age here. With the likes of He-Man at the end of the episode, you would have morale, so we'd have, in today's story, we learned that if we used our heads and thought one step ahead, we could outwit our opposition, which is kind of what Rex was telling whenever we were playing chess. So do you think he's going to kind of fit in with the Rebels and see more character development and interaction? Because obviously we had Kanan saying to him, like, oh, you did that, I don't know whether I like you more or less now. And very deadpan. So what are your thoughts on Rex kind of integrating with the other Rebels?
I think Rex is definitely going to feature more as the season goes on, but I think he will probably be used more as a tool for the development of Kanan's character. I think he's very much been brought in for that reason, and I think we're going to see a change in attitude from Kanan towards Rex and towards clone troopers in general and that kind of history. So I think he's there just as a way to progress Kanan's story forward, whereas Ahsoka is there for Ahsoka and is going to be a big part of the season in her own right. I think Rex is more just a tool to get to the next stage of Kanan's character.
Yeah, okay. I had a thought about now, obviously we're talking about Rebels here, but we're about 6 weeks away from Force Awakens. So what I'm thinking of is if we do a podcast each week, obviously there's 6 films and there's 6 weeks, if we review The Phantom Menace next week and then talk about like like our first impressions of it, and then what we thought after that, and then kind of the music and stuff like that. Obviously, we have to run this past Dave Munns and see if he is happy enough to do this. But I just thought I had planned to do this on YouTube, so this is actually an easier way to do it. And if we talk about each film, and then after that, then we can review The Force Awakens. So, what are your thoughts on that? Just to deviate totally away from what we're actually talking about.
Yeah, it sounds like an ideal plan to me. And if anybody's watching this on the recap on YouTube, then leave your thoughts about The Phantom Menace as well. And if you've got any questions about that film or our feelings towards that film, leave them in the comments and we'll definitely answer them next week. But yeah, that's a great idea.
Cool. Cami, Reader 1717, whenever I posted on my YouTube channel promoting this, she wanted to know what our thoughts are on the expanded universe and the fact of kind of Disney have kind of disregarded that now. She kind of put it that she wasn't happy about it, so I'd like to know your thoughts, whether you'd read any. I haven't read any of the expanded universe stuff or anything like that, so I'm not overly familiar with that, but just whenever they say that this is not canon, it's only like the movies and the likes of the TV shows, anything we're putting out is canon. So kind of what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, that's a really great question. To me, it's an interesting one because obviously the expanded universe, there was that much story there. I'm not familiar with all of it, I've got to be honest, but I know there was a lot of different comics that I've read. Again, there was a couple of Darth Maul ones that I've read that aren't part of canon anymore. There was obviously Knights of the Old Republic. You had the Force Unleashed games, which I absolutely loved. All of that kind of thing now has been completely thrown out, which I don't know. It depends which way you look at it. On one hand, it's kind of like, it's annoying in a way because that to a lot of people is their Star Wars history. To them now, that means just a part to their Star Wars world as the films did. But in another respect, I think Disney are putting that much stuff out there at the minute, and they are trying to build their own sort of Star Wars canon and stuff that really, I guess they don't need the expanded universe, and it was a really good way for them to kind of wipe the slate clean, start fresh. And I think what you'll see as time goes on is I think they will sort of borrow from the expanded universe. They might change characters' names or various different kind of things, but I'd be very surprised if it gets dismissed entirely. I know at the minute they're saying it's not canon at all, but I really wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line something will be taken from expanded universe and added into canon, or there'll be characters that are renamed, but you know full well that they are those ones from the expanded universe thrown in, that kind of thing. Because in a way, it would be kind of foolish of Disney to forget it altogether, because in a way a lot of their work's been done, because there's a heck of a lot of great stuff out there that to just dismiss it is kind of a bit wrong. So I like the way they've wiped the slate clean. I love the way they're doing their own thing, and so far everything they've done in canon I've been really impressed with on the whole. I think they're doing a great job, but yeah, I think it would be very silly to just forget about it altogether. So I think as time goes on, we're definitely going to see at least some of it included in some way or another.
Okay. Robbie, since you're watching, if you'd like to leave us a question down below, feel free to do so. Somebody had put a picture up of, I think it was The Force Awakens. It was like the Game of the Year cover, and you saw like the character, and somebody said, is not canon, and then it has a picture of Kylo Ren, and the mask and everything was very similar to that as well. Did you get my email this morning as well to do with a certain piece of merchandise I thought you might like?
No.
Okay, I'll have to send it to you later on then. With it, obviously Rebels comes merchandise. Now I know you're a huge fan of that Ahsoka and Darth Vader 2-pack and things like that. Has there been any other Rebel merchandise, Star Wars Rebel merchandise that you've picked up or have kind of had your eye on for a while?
Not really. I think we're severely lacking in the Rebels merchandise department at the minute. I don't think that's going to be the case for long. I think we're probably going to see a run of a lot of stuff come out pretty soon, but I definitely want them to be doing some Rebel Funko Pops. I think that'd be really cool.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
And I've heard rumblings of an Ahsoka 6-inch Black Series figure. So if that comes out, I'm
No, that's what I sent you.
Oh, is that what you sent me? Oh, right. Okay. Well,
Yeah, it was that, and there's a Kanan one as well.
uh,
That's what it was that I sent you. Funnily enough,
uh,
but it didn't look like it was the finished article. It was it almost looked like a spirit thing, but it was just like it was all blue because a fellow YouTuber had mentioned a website, and I went on there and typed in Queen Amidala, and their pop vinyl came up. But whenever you click on it, it says notify when available in stock, and I was like, all right. And then I saw that Ahsoka thing, so I emailed it to you, but obviously I had your email address wrong then. Yeah. Well, with what else should we discuss now to do with Rebels? I mean, are you happy with how the second series is progressing? Obviously, sometimes you'll find with a lull, with season 1, it'll be really good, and season 2, it'll be a bit, sometimes they'll be hit or miss. With the likes of, say, Arrow, season 2 of Arrow was far superior to season 1. Season 1 is kind of just introducing the characters. Yeah, 13 odd episodes of it, at like, what is it, half an hour each?
yeah.
Thereabouts? Yeah, so what are your thoughts on where it's been and where it's going?
Well, so far, like I said earlier, I've been completely impressed with how season 2 has kicked off. So I think the way it's heading, it's gonna be far better than season 1. And season 1 was fantastic. It was really, really good. But I know Dave Filoni said that series 2 of Rebels was going to be kind of like his Empire Strikes Back. And it was going to have a darker tone, which we've seen elements of that already. I'm really excited with this season to see where it goes, what direction it goes in. I really want to, whether or not Ahsoka gets out of this season alive or not, really intrigues me. I've got different ideas on that one, and I kind of think she won't, which I don't like, but we'll see. But yeah, I think it's definitely already better than season 1. It feels like a stronger series. It feels like they found their feet. They know where they're going with it. They've got a fantastic plan for the future, I think. So yeah, it's going to be really, really good. I did read a rumor as well about how people are thinking that somehow they're going to connect Rebels into the Rogue One film somehow, which obviously when Rogue One comes out, that is going to be sort of season 3 of Rebels. So and they're obviously taking place in the same point of the timeline. So there's all sorts of these rumors going around that, Rogue One characters are going to pop up in Rebels and vice versa. And a lot of people have got this rumor that Felicity Jones's character in Rogue One is going to be Sabine from Rebels. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know whether there's any truth in that whatsoever, but I'm really intrigued to see how Rebels is going to help get to the point of Rogue One. So that should be interesting as well.
Yeah, I think if that does happen, you would see, like obviously Rebels is popular enough as it is, but you would see a spike in like the DVD or Blu-ray sales, because obviously with the likes of, say, like the Shattered Empire, Journey of the Force Awakens, whenever that movie comes out, I think with the likes of the trade or back issues, you'll just see that go up because it's only 4 parts, so it's not exactly something that whenever I was at a convention, somebody asked me what I thought of the Shattered Empire, and I went, I didn't really care for it. It didn't blow me away. Issue 1, I really enjoyed, and then it just went thereafter. But yeah, apparently I have to check my emails, says Robbie. It's nice, Robbie. I'm not recording a podcast. All right. He wrote here, guys. Here's some photos of the Star Wars fig arts coming out of Japan. I don't know if I can show you this. That's Mace Windu.
Ah, cool.
There. Oh yes, I think I have seen this. Is this the one that has Han Solo, but he looks really miserable? You've got one here which has C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca, Han Solo, and Luke with the blaster shield. Like his visor thing. You've also got here, if this would focus, General Grievous. You can't really see this. I'll forward it on to you. And then you've got like a Stormtrooper, and then down the bottom you've got like clone troopers fighting, the stop droids down the bottom there as well. It'd be brilliant if this could actually focus on things, but I don't know if you could see that.
I'm not seeing it very well. You're going to have to forward it to me. But that's really interesting because they've already brought out a Darth Maul figure, which looked really, really awesome. And I was looking into getting that at some point. So they're obviously going for a full line with these figures. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because I know that their Power Ranger figures looked absolutely phenomenal, really, really good. So that's really interesting.
I think Figuarts have done, if memory serves, they've done like the Pokemon ones, like Mewtwo, Blastoise, Charizard, etc., Ivysaur, and I think they did like a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff, like Dick Dastardly and Muttley and Secret Squirrel and a couple other things like that there as well. Robbie says Kylo Ren came out in the summer and flew stupid money now.
Oh,
the same in the Black Series stuff now. I mean, at the convention, people are wanting 25 to 30 quid for like one figure. Just some of the prices now. There was also I don't know if there was like a black teaser poster that says Star Wars The Force Awakens in theaters soon, and some guy was selling it and wanted 100 quid for that poster. It's just black and it has the font on it. That was it. And I was just like, my lord, really 100 quid for that? You must be joking.
It's absolutely crazy. It just shows the popularity of Star Wars, though. I mean, it's been huge for years, but this film it's brought it all back again. Everything's going for silly money. But in terms of the figures, it's, some people might see it as a good thing, some people might see it as a problem, but there's that many different companies bringing out Star Wars figures at the minute. It's really hard to sort of choose one line and stick to it, and it's really difficult to not spend too much money, because you got Disney doing their Elite series of die-cast figures, which look absolutely phenomenal in person, so good. And then you've got the Black series, you've got these ones that you just mentioned. It's absolutely crazy, just figures coming out everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty much like with Star Wars, one of the main things has always been the merchandise. We've had like the original ones, then there was kind of a lull, then you had like the Part of the Force that came out, then you had like the retro series kind of throwbacks, and now you have, as you say, you've had like the Black series. I can remember hearing Rebel Force Radio about some guy giving off about the slave Leia, goes like, it's pretty indecent, and you're like, oh my lord. And then you've got like the normal 6-inch scale ones, and then you've got the bigger ones, and it's just a case of, that's why I just stick with the t-shirts and the Disney Infinity stuff as well. But there's so much merchandise coming out. It seems to be a case now of, if you want something bad enough, you need to pre-order it, because if you don't, that's why I pre-order the likes of I'll get I'll get the soundtrack digitally, so it'll be straight on my phone. I don't need to put it on my computer or whatever, because my computer is fryer tucked. It's in other words, and the likes of the art book, and there's other things as well. The Disney Infinity figures are actually coming out the 18th of December, so that coincides with the movie, and just leaving it that late, what's that? That's a week before Christmas for people to come in and get that. And it's a case of, I've always got it on my phone and said, here's photos of them, you can pre-order them. No. And I know, finally, as soon as that movie comes out, people will be coming in to buy that, and it will not have any left. I'll be like, I said you to pre-order it. But it seems to be the way going forward. I'd also like to thank Mercy for leaving us a few comments on our first episode on YouTube, saying that she didn't like us talking about Chewbacca dying and things like that as well. So,
I don't like talking about Chewbacca dying.
No, I don't think anyone does. Robbie was saying Kylo Ren was still going for retail on Amazon Japan last time I checked. I don't really frequently use Amazon Japan, Robbie, but if I do, Amazing Japan actually sounded like a better website. And there's another viewer. So do you have any other topics to talk about before we wrap this up? I think we've kind of pretty much talked about Rebels enough. So if there's anything that kind of came to light for you regarding Star Wars this week?
Well, I did just have one question for you in regards to just going back to Rebels really quickly. I just wanted to know your thoughts on this rumor that has escalated out of nowhere that the Inquisitors are going to end up turning into the Knights of Ren. Your thoughts on that, please?
Well, I didn't hear anything about that, to be honest. It kind of makes sense whenever you look at their helmets and everything, and kind of, you look at how Kylo Ren is. But then it kind of makes sense and it doesn't make sense, because then it's a case of that ties in from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope, and then we're going to have to go 30 years thereafter. So that's been dead for 30 years and then kind of resurrects after 30 years. So I think, as Jim Ross always says, the internet is like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together, or cornflakes and milk for people who don't like peanut butter and jelly. Episode 8, Hayden Christensen rumors and, such like that. And there'll always be rumors about everything. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest, because it's coming to a point that you need to kind of digest everything Star Wars related, whether it be the comics, whether it be the TV show, whether it be the music, whether it be the trailers, whether it be the films. If you want to understand it all, like it'd be a case of, oh yes, here's Star Wars Episode 7. You need to watch Rebels Season 2 for you to see how the Knights of Ren came to pass. We've had the Knights of the Old Republic, so it makes sense that we have, the Knights of Ren, but the Ren is, obviously it's not his surname. It's like a following, like the way the majority of people were called Darth or Count or whatever, but I don't know what to think of it, to be honest with you. I think just people are picking one aspect and then another aspect and going like, right, okay, let's try and link them together somehow by making some wild rumor. What would you think about it? Do you think it's bogus?
Well, it's kind of like what you said. There's been such a big gap between Rebels and Force Awakens. You would have thought it would have been the case that the Inquisitors would have been mentioned somewhere along the line in the original trilogy or referred to, if that was going to be the case. To me, it feels like the Inquisitors have literally just been created for Rebels, and I think, but whenever Rebels does come to an end, you'll see the Inquisitors, come to an end at that point as well. I don't think that's gonna. I can't see them being the Knights of Ren at all. I think a far more realistic idea is in the book that I was talking about a bit last week, Aftermath. There's a brief interlude where you see a group of, I suppose you can say, Vader worshippers, I guess. They've kind of they're in this building that they've got Vader lives written all over the walls, and basically they're trying to acquire Vader's lightsaber, and they buy a lightsaber, a red lightsaber. They're told that it's Vader's one, but they don't really know if it is or not. But they're obviously this group of people. They're not Sith, but they're definitely Sith sympathizers, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And they're very shady individuals. They're all described as being dressed in the black robes and that kind of thing. So I think that is a much more realistic, to me, because Aftermath is set just months after Jedi. I think that could definitely be the birth of the Knights of Ren there, and it could just escalate from there. I think that's a much more realistic idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so last week we had Millie Akers in asking us questions and stuff. What I'd like to try and do is each week, if somebody is in and leaving us comments and stuff, they're the guest of the show. So Millie was the guest of the show last week, and this week the honour goes to Mr. Robbie Rebel. So make sure to check out Retro Rebel on YouTube. That's your plug, Rebel, for like the 5 people who watch this, 30 odd or whatever. I think we'll probably wrap it up there, Simon. We'll probably, as I say, discuss with Dave, but it looks highly likely that from next week we will discuss. Probably it may take us longer than an hour, like maybe an hour 1 minute for the Phantom Menace, or maybe about a minute. We'll just like talk about the movies and like our favorite things about them, our least favorite things about them, the music, the characters, like how important is that movie in the franchise. And obviously what we could do is, out of 6, like with 1 being our favorite and 6 being our least favorite, where it actually ranks in the franchises as well. So if you'd like to plug your YouTube, Twitter, all those various means, go on ahead, good sir.
Okay, so you can find me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Twitter. That's at Simon_M_Davis. Don't forget the underscores, please. They're very important. And you can also find me on YouTube, which is Star Killer Base Reviews. I'm going to be having a new video up there tomorrow where I will be discussing in depth the book that I have been mentioning in this video, Star Wars Aftermath. I'll be talking about that in a new video tomorrow, so be sure to check that out, please. So yeah, hopefully see you guys over there.
What I would like you to do as well is discuss the book that you got, the Art of Star Wars Clone Wars. I'd like to see you discuss that book as well.
I will do that.
Yes, so myself, Vintomania on YouTube, Vinto316 on Facebook, Twitter even. You can like the podcast, Order 66 Podcast on Twitter. If you have any questions or any comments regarding any of the Star Wars films, because we will be discussing them, email them to order66podcast@gmail.com. We will then read them out and kind of, like a few Phantom Menace maybe. It could be Simon's favorite. It could be my favorite. I think it is Dave's favorite. I think Dave says Phantom last week. If you go back and check, Phantom Menace was definitely there. He didn't mention any of the other films like Empire Strikes Back or whatever. Just said Phantom Menace was it because he loves Jar Jar Binks, and we'll get more on that next week. So yeah, anything else to say, Simon?
Just like I said last week, if you're watching this video on the recap on YouTube, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave any questions you've got there as well, because we will definitely answer those next week. We really want to make this podcast about interactivity with fans. This is, just 3 fans talking to the fans about Star Wars. So we really want to, get involved with you guys as much as possible and really make this an interactive thing. So we'd really love your support in doing that, and hopefully we can hear from as many of you as possible.
Okay, cool. So until next week, I've been Chris Vint.
And I've been Simon Michael Davis.
So it just leaves us to say, may the Force be with you.
Bye, guys.
So if I hit record, maybe it'll turn it off. It has recorded it all.